Welcome back, everybody, to the Road to BlizzCon, day number 9 for the North American Hearthstone World Championship Qualifier. It's a mouthful. We've been here for a lot of days, but in the end, we're starting to get down to the wire. It's time for our last match before we start crowning the 2 other spots to go into the top 8, happening in the San Francisco Foundry later in October. My name is Phonetap. I'm joined by Robert A. Wing, and I'm also joined on the end by Chalky. We just casted a crazy match between Trump and Alan Dang, but the madness continues. So, Robert, how did you enjoy watching that off-screen there in the back on the couches?
Yeah, so I was watching that, and Trump really looked like he was in a bad spot. You know, we've kind of seen this a couple times where the Druid runs out of steam, and then all of a sudden the Patron is just very easily able to just kind of smother them. And then Trump drew that Ancient of War, and I was like, yes, you can do it, Trump. And then, you know, he put it together. Very excited for Trump. I know he is one of those players who often wants to prove that he's got what it takes to compete in kind of these large-scale tournaments, so congrats for him. Super excited.
Absolutely. And it's really cool to see him continue his journey. I think last year, Trump didn't really get much of a BlizzCon attempt. I think he didn't really have many points. He was still caught in between this arena versus constructed player split, right? He was just like, I really love arena. I love drafting. You know, constructed I'll play a little bit of and kind of dip my hands in it. People didn't really take him as seriously. But this year, it's almost been like a full concentration on constructed and everything with it. And his play has improved immensely. And this time around, we have an upcoming match of Firebat up against Phonetap, 2 very good constructed players. We want to take this opportunity to remind you guys very quickly about the cool promotions going on with Amazon App Store. So go ahead and hop onto the link right there below, amazon.com/Hearthstone, and look at ways you can get 20% off on all of your card packs. You can just get some coins on the Android apps and then use that coins to get some card packs. Also, if you're on social media, tell us about what you think about that match, as well as upcoming one. It's one that just happened, by hashtagging the Road to BlizzCon. You can do this all throughout the couple of months that we're going to be doing these broadcasts, and let us know, not just about maybe the games, but some people have been tweeting me about the awesome shirts. Robert, they want to know where they can get cool shirts like me and Chalky.
Yeah, I have to actually look into your shirt. Yours is a very cool one. I don't know if it's necessarily on the Blizzard Gear Store right now, but I believe these are both on the Gear Store.
I have an exclusive shirt that no one can have.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm sure we can find it.
Yeah,
I bought mine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know. I thought they gave it to you for doing a good job on the cast.
And I just like Hearthstone shirts.
All right. Well, there you go. You two can get some, too. We'll talk about it at the end of the broadcast, though, for Blizzard gear and some of the cool codes. In the meantime, let's talk about our upcoming match here. It's the last one before we go into the winners' matches of today. The way today was broken down is that we have 2 spots and 8 players. So we have to whittle the 8 down to 4, and Phonetap and Firebat are the last remaining for the first batch here. So Phonetap comes in here yesterday, not with the best ending to his series. He had a little bit of a flub there at the very end up against Jab. However, he still has a big chance, but he has to take down the Titan that is the world champion Firebat.
Yeah, Firebat is, you know, he came in. He obviously didn't have a great first series up in the upper bracket, but he's come down in the lower bracket and really proven himself against Dog, who I would argue is one of the top 20 players, and definitely within the top 20 within North America. And very excited to see what he can do here against Phonetap. For Phonetap, it's a little bit of a different situation, as you kind of said. It's him taking on player who's largely considered the, again, top 5, top 10 at least in North America. So Phonetap with big hill to climb up, but you know, eager to see if he can do it.
Firebat, top 10 player in NA. Shots fired.
Yeah, I don't know, Rob. Maybe he's like 11.
I mean, I guess winning the World Championship makes you pretty good.
Firebat's probably one of the best players in the world. Let's just put it out there. I think he's one of the 5 most consistent, reliable, and technical players in the world. I can understand why you were just trying to estimate the fact that he's one of the best players in the region.
It's hard to pick. We really do have a lot of great players in North America.
But if you even just go by peer review, right? A lot of the players would even pick Firebat as their top 5 players out there. Just in terms of like the way he views the games, the way he plays the game, the way he prepares deck builds, the way he looks into lineups. Firebat's actually the one who kind of solved Conquest the fastest. He was publishing his spreadsheets, and everyone was copying that kind of style for preparation. And then, of course, some people were also randomizing as well because they felt like they didn't want to be figured out. And ultimately, I think he still comes in here as the favorite. But Phonetap is also one of the guys who's been slaying the favorites for several months now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again.
Yeah, I definitely think Phonetap has a pretty reasonable shot in this matchup. I do think I prefer Firebat's lineup a bit, but in this first matchup, we're just getting a straight mirror match, so it's really anybody's game. And hopefully it doesn't kind of come down to that draw of just first Patron wave wins, but I think a lot of the strategy has evolved past that, and we've seen Patron mirrors go quite the distance and there's a lot more technical play and playing around counter-frothing Berserker combos, playing around your opponents, you know, removing your patrons. You have to kind of, we've seen crazy plays like killing off your own patrons, but then you don't want to kill off too many, because then what if they just kill off the rest and now you have nothing? It can get a little insane.
Yeah, I would say in general, as someone, I've kind of mentioned this over the course of the weekend, I do not play a ton of Patron. So whenever I see a Patron mirror match, I'm like, all right, well, cool, he has some patrons, and then the other person has patrons. I'm like, I don't know who's winning here. Someone has more patrons than the other, but that may be too many patrons. A Frothing Berserker could come out, Whirlwind effects start going, big numbers start hitting people in the face. Firebat's going to throw out really quickly here, just the Unstable Ghoul. It puts something on the board for him, and, you know, not necessarily super threatening to Phonetap, but it also stops Phonetap from hitting him initially. Yeah,
it's interesting because I think he's going to want to play the shield block the following turn. The only thing that I am always worried about when doing something like the Unstable Ghoul is if they coin out an Acolyte of Pain, because you can't directly answer it. Of course, Phonetap could be interpreting it as like, oh, maybe he wants me to bait into it, so I won't play the Acolyte. I'll save my coin because he has Fiery War Axe. You know, these are the mind games and the thoughts that do cross the players' minds.
Yeah, I would say when I do see these matchups, it does seem like the Patron Mirror, more so than others, has a lot of mind games, especially in the early few turns. I think once Emperor Thorsan starts coming out and weapons start getting equipped, the jig is kind of up. But at least in these early turns, it's kind of about, to me, getting your opponent to do what you want them to do. And oftentimes, that's kind of getting them to not dig for cards, but to play a little bit more defensively.
Well, the cool thing is that Firebat, if he baits out the Acolyte, then he can interrage his Unstable Ghoul and effectively put his opponent on one card to draw with it, which is much more effective than the other. Phonetap evaluates it, just things pass. You know, there's definitely better uses of the coin, especially if he has Grim Patron already in hand with the Death Bite. I feel like there's lots of room for big stuff to happen on those turns.
Yeah, and the coin is a really important card in this matchup because it's going to give Phonetap the ability to do something like Patron Coin Whirlwind, or coin out a patron, coin out Despite. All of those things going to affect how he can play this game, whereas coining out the Acolyte, like you said, he probably just thinks of that as, okay, if my opponent is going to play an Unstable Ghoul, you know, especially if my opponent is, you know, one of the best players in the world, he's not just going to be walking into me coining out an Acolyte. He obviously has something to deal with that, which Firebat did. He had the Inner Rage. He'd be able to deal with an Acolyte, so Phonetap's just going to hold on to the coin and go for the Acolyte the very next turn.
Yeah, there's nothing on this board that immediately kills Phonetap's Acolyte, so feels like a pretty safe play at the moment. We see Firebat immediately going for that Inner Rage play that Chacky was kind of maybe talking about for the Unstable Ghoul. Instead puts it on the Acolyte of Pain and is going to be really quickly able to get rid of Phonetap's own Acolyte. So Firebat's going to get 3 draws potentially off this Acolyte, assuming it doesn't get executed.
Yep, basically the perfect scenario for Firebat here, having the initiative on his Acolyte of Pain, but he is missing a really critical piece of this matchup, which is just having patrons.
Yeah, he has both copies of Death's Bites, or both copies of Death's Bite, and he has some pieces to possibly get some more cycle going with that Battle Rage, with that Shield Block, and with that Cruel Taskmaster. But as you said, he's missing Warsong Commander, Frothing Berserker, kind of a few cards there. Oh, he gets a Frothing Berserker there.
Yeah, but things are about to get crazy for Phonetap next turn. He can make 6 patrons, again, with the coin Whirlwind play, with the Whirlwind from the Despite and the Inner Rage that he picked up. He's going to have the ability to make, you know, 4 or 6 patrons, and Firebat really doesn't have a great way to not only not proactively stop that, but after it happens, how can he deal with all those patrons?
Yeah, we've seen a couple of Patron decks running Brawl, but I don't think either Phonetap or Firebat are, so they're going to have to kind of go about clearing patrons the old-fashioned way, unless they want to try to turn it into a situation where they can get out Warsong and Frothing, but neither player actually has Warsong Commander in their hands.
It's interesting, too, because you generally want to make sure you can set up Death's Bite to do something, but sometimes a second Whirlwind effect of Death's Bite ends up costing you the ability to clear the patrons, because you have to do some damage to the other one. So it's a very interesting scenario. Firebat looks like he wants to just put the Frothing Berserker down for tempo and be mana efficient. However, almost every play that he does is going to be inefficient, because the Frothing Berserker is also one of your win conditions in case your opponent goes too ham on the patron.
He gets that Emperor Thorsan at the very end of his turn. Obviously didn't have enough mana to play it, and as you said, nothing in his hand really felt great to play, so he went ahead and just armored up, pass turn, and now it's going to be up to Phonetap to decide if he wants to take that line, as Chalky brought up, where he just kind of floods the board with patrons.
Yeah, I don't really see another fantastic play for him. I mean, he could wait on it. Then you run the risk of Firebat plopping down a patron, maybe interraging it and whirlwinding. Obviously, it's not a huge risk, having already seen one of the interrages, but I don't know what you'd really be afraid of going for the patrons. Like you said, haven't really seen Brawl out of either of these players in prior matches. So getting the early patrons can be a big help, and it looks like he will at least be going for 4 of them. Maybe we'll even see the coin whirlwind getting 6.
Yeah, we're going pretty early into Chalky's favorite place in the world, Patron Town.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Want to go home.
No,
well, Firebat wants to go home.
Firebat's trying to close the door. He's like, no, we're closed for the night. Please, don't come in.
Well, I mean, this is, like you said, a really powerful play. I'm looking at ways to clear immediately. I think there are some, but you're going to leave up a full health patron no matter what you do.
Let's see. He has a Death's Bite. He has a Slam. He has a Cruel Taskmaster.
Yeah, he's not full clearing this.
No, no way.
Now would be the time where he wants to maybe just slip Brawl into his deck. And
yeah, I wonder if maybe he even thinks the opposite direction of like, yeah, screw it. If you have any patrons, I can play the Emperor Thorson.
He's still got to draw that Warsong Commander first before he can really do anything.
It's true. It's also a big problem.
It still might be worth just playing now that Emperor Thorson, trying to buy some time. He has to basically figure out, is there a way he dies next turn? But he's at 32 health right now. There is no Frothing Berserker or Warsong Commander on the board, and most of the board is taken up by patrons right now. Is there also maybe, Chalky, as someone who kind of plays a little bit more of this, is there some universe where you're thinking maybe your opponent does have Warsong Commander after seeing this line of play with all these patrons made?
I don't think you can really get an accurate read on it. I mean, playing out 6 patrons on turn 5 is generally a play you're going to want to make. Regardless of your hand context, there just really isn't anything better for the deck to do at that point. Maybe Emperor Thorson, but obviously in this matchup, just getting out, you see now Phonetap's left with 12 power of minions. It's just going to let him push in this game so much faster, and if Firebat doesn't have the correct answers, game's going to end.
Yeah, and we see he really doesn't have those answers. He equipped the Death's Bite last turn. Clears 1 patron, still 3 full health patrons on the board, and as you point out, Phonetap just kind of has free reign to do whatever he wants here.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see Cruel Taskmaster get another patron, push even more damage, and then maybe some form of weapon equip. Could see Fiery War Axe with the armor up, or maybe just Death Bites for extra damage.
Yeah, Death Bite seems to be threatening more.
He is pushing basically 2-turn lethal right now, and with 3 full health patrons, how worried can you really be about your patron getting cleared out?
Right, you probably think that if your opponent had something to do about that, you would have seen it last turn. And Firebat obviously looked to get a little bit of power off the board, but he didn't really change up that much. And as you pointed out, he is, Phonetap is on this 2-turn lethal plan right now.
Yep. So Firebat's going to have to find something to do about that, and really his hand doesn't have much to do about it. Shield Block's going to kind of delay the inevitable right now, but what can you really even be digging for?
Warsong Commander shenanigans, maybe.
Warsong Commander helps, but is it kind of one of those situations where maybe you're just out of time?
That looks to be the case. I mean, if Firebat gets this armor up in, he won't just be dead, I believe, unless Phonetap can pick up a little bit more damage. Right now he has 18.
Yeah, the
Gonna go down to 15 from the Interrage. So yeah, like you said, he's going to need his own Warsong.
Oh,
well,
that should do it.
That'll do it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Now he can clone the patrons, and that's just way too much damage. So a very quick game number 1 here, turn 7 kill, but almost to be expected because this is one of the fundamental ways to win this matchup, just a huge patron flood, and your opponent can't deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're given those cards that Phonetap got, you really do just kind of want to go, do you have it? And Firebat was like, no, I don't. So that's game.
Yep. In this case, it's somewhat ironic too, because in the past in Hearthstone, the strongest decks were often the counter to the strongest decks, right? The best way to answer, like a lot of the tempo Hunter got was through Flare, right? And that was kind of the joke that Hunter counters Hunter. In this case, Patron actually struggles against Patron in a lot of ways because of how it floods the board, and you can't really interact with so many minions unless you have Brawl or single target removal for everything. And when you do 6 Patron on the board, kind of out of control.
Yeah, it's sometimes a situation where he who patrons first, patrons last, and just wins the game. Obviously, there's a danger where Warsong comes out and then a whole...
I have Bible scripture.
It's actually in my book of poetry.
Just the way you wrote it.
The Book of Patron.
No, remember that journal I put on Twitter, the Hearthstone journal? It's in there.
Oh,
gotcha. The lessons I learned over the course of ladder. But
Okay.
You're like, I'm going to go pull that journal
Is it right behind? Yeah,
no,
it's actually right behind us.
Don't even worry about looking at that.
Yeah, over there, actually, right.
Yeah, it's right behind Rob. If you move over, there it is.
There you go. That's also available in the Blizzard Gear store. So there is obviously a danger where if you put down a bunch of patrons, Warsong Commander comes down, Frothing Berserker comes down, Whirlwind Effects comes down. But Firebat just, simply put, didn't have it. Phonetap, as you said, kind of played the line that was available to him, ends up getting him the win, and now he's up 1-0 on Firebat.
Very nice win here. Now we have 5 unique classes for the rest of the series. Interesting. Phonetap, one of the few players to not bring Druid. Also not bringing Warlock at all. Firebat bringing that Mage. Remember that Tempo Mage mirror he had against Fishy was one of the craziest matchups I think we saw with a bunch of it was like basically a lot of weird outcomes of unstable portals, both of them whiffing on it. It's really funny. That said, we have yet to see if Phonetap's Paladin can also be consistent and seem to be the source of a lot of failure in the previous series.
Yeah, that's something interesting. Coming into this tournament, on ladder at least, a lot of people have been kind of figuring that Secret Paladin is just one of those super crazy strong decks, like the Hunter of old. People are saying it's OP, it's OP. And then it's kind of this tournament, and it hasn't really been consistent. There have been moments where it's shined, and it's been able to curve out into that mysterious challenger and put too much pressure on the board. But then there's also just been moments where you draw Paladin secrets. And when you draw those Paladin secrets, the problem a lot of the time is that they're Paladin secrets, and maybe you wish they were other secrets.
I bet Trump wishes Phonetap will win, not only because he feels like maybe Firebat's a more intimidating opponent on paper, but because he's running 2 classes that Flare is legitimately good against.
He's got the flair.
He's playing Paladin and he's playing Hunter. 2 classes which excel off of using secrets.
Yep.
Right, so Phonetap's Hunter deck, I don't recall if it was hybrid or just more mid-rangey, but either way, it's going to have its work cut out for it against Patron. It basically has to kill the Patron really early on, or else the Patron can find a lot of ways to just gain a bunch of armor through Armor Smith, Shield Block. It can stabilize itself, and then all of a sudden the tables turn really quickly, and the Hunter has a bunch of 2-attack minions that are suddenly real liabilities.
All right, well, the Coin of Stable Cool just to control the state of the board early on. It challenges the Haunted Creeper very effectively. Phonetap does pick up a quick shot. It does open up the option of potentially just killing off this Unstable Cool to prevent problems in the future.
Yeah, and if he went for that, Firebat would actually have quite the awkward turn where he basically just armors up and would regret kind of using the coin. Obviously, it is play went for, so can't really regret that your play didn't work out because your opponent had one specific card. But I think the fact that he played Mad Scientist actually plays into Firebat's hands here because he has the slam.
So if you're Chalky, obviously someone who plays a lot of Hunter, if you're Phonetap next turn, you're probably just going to go ahead and equip the Eagle Horn Bow, right? You're not going to just quick shot that ghoul off the board now on 3 mana.
Yeah, the Eagle Horn Bow will leave you behind with a bow charge, which basically develops more tempo onto the board. You save the quick shot for later. Maybe you get that extra draw off of it. And this is just, simply more mana efficient, more board efficient. Really just no reason to ever quick shot here.
Right. And on the next turn, he will be on 4 mana, so if he really wanted to throw things on the board, he could just do Knife Juggler, Haunted Creeper. Although, maybe you want to just keep that Haunted Creeper for, a surprise Knife Juggler turn and pepper in some hero powers there.
Maybe not, though. I mean, he did pick up Houndmaster. That's one way you can make Haunted Creeper relevant, because as the game goes on, Haunted Creeper becomes more of a liability against this deck because of its weak stats. The Patron Warrior loves Haunted Creeper. In fact, if there was one of the cards you can always pick your opponent to have 30 cards of, it legitimately might be Haunted Creeper.
I was going to say, Haunted Creeper is kind of the gift that just keeps on giving to patrons.
For sure.
Like, oh, great, a 1/2. Oh, look, all
can
these
you think
1/1s.
of a deck of minions that Patron would always pick the opponent to have?
I don't know, man. Those Haunted Creepers might just overrun you. What if you don't draw your War Song?
it's card number 29 and 30.
You just draw Fire War Axe. You're like, oh, this really isn't that efficient. Oh, man.
I think that was the theme of a horror movie back in the day where it was just like arachnophobia or something, just all those spiders. Like, oh, they never drew their War Song Commander.
That could be a Tavern Brawl, Patrons versus Haunted Creepers.
Wow.
Oh, man, I got Haunted Creepers again.
Wow.
That would be a lot of fun.
Well, you have 4 turns of being able to play
Yeah,
something.
you're like, I'm so ahead. So ahead. I wonder what their deck. It's like the first time you play it, you're like, I wonder what their deck is. Mine's just Haunted Creepers. Everyone!
No!
Why'd you put Patrons only in Shaman? It doesn't even make sense.
So, worth noting there, Phonetap goes and decides to Houndmaster the Haunted Creeper. The Knife Juggle comes out, hits Firebat's face. So,
A little awkward.
I feel like this turn could have been different.
Definitely a little awkward considering that you know your opponent could have Death Spite and then set up a pretty powerful opportunity to capitalize on Knife Jugglers. But I still think that the Frothing Berserker is a big threat. And you don't even lose your Haunted Creeper. But you do also miss a pretty good damage to the face.
Yeah, at some point in this matchup as the Hunter, you have to just start going face. It feels weird to say you have to kind of coax the Hunter into going face. But at some point, you actually just have to go face.
I mean, this Hunter does end up trading a lot. People joke about the Hunter class never really trading and going very aggressive to your opponent's life total, but it is a very important thing to control the state of the board as a mid-range Hunter so that you can leverage your burn spells for a very powerful win.
Yeah, people, a lot of people choose to kind of give some guff to Hunter for just being, face is the place kind of class, but I don't really think the straight-up face Hunter variant has been super successful on either ladder or in tournament in some time. I think most Hunters are kind of forced to play that hybrid build, which is as close as they can get. It has Arcane Golems in it, it has Argent Crusaders, or Argent Horde Traders rather, so, you get to do some damage.
Gnomes.
Right. As long as you have Leper Gnomes.
And all those things go in one direction, Rob.
Well, now there's only one place to hit, and Firebat's so low with nothing to do in his hand, it looks like he's just going to die.
Yeah, there's too much pressure from the Hunter, and even though the mid-range Hunter has weak minions to the Patron, ultimately he wasn't given enough time. This is something that you always have to evaluate. Firebat's going to be down 0-2 and going to have to reverse sweep the Paladin deck.
Yeah, I mean, you were kind of talking about it earlier. If there is a deck I think you'd want to be in this situation against, it's probably that Paladin deck. I think it's a deck that a lot of North American and European players really over-prepared for. Going into regionals, it was definitely a concern for a lot of people, so they wanted maybe their lineup to counter that because the deck is very counterable. But yeah, obviously Firebat has his back against the wall and needs to pull out 3 wins now.
Yeah, he's got his Druid against Paladin, which is definitely winnable. A little bit tough sometimes when they land the Mysterious Challenger. He's got Patron, of course, and then his last was Tempo Mage. How does Tempo Mage relate to Paladin?
And I don't even know. I haven't seen that matchup like at all.
It's pretty obscure, right?
I think it depends. So it depends on what kind of Seeker Paladin it is. If it's that more aggressive version of Seeker Paladin, Tempo Mage can actually do reasonably well because of Flame Waker and cheap spells and having the ability to clear the board. There's even some decks that run 1 copy of Flame Strike, which can be good kind of more towards the middle of the game in terms of getting rid of stuff like what Shredder leaves over, stuff that's brought back to life by Redemption. Paladin, I don't know. Again, it just depends. Paladin Secret is one of those decks that really hasn't been refined. People are bringing a bunch of different stuff. We see Murloc Knight in it. We see some are running Shredder still. So I think it really just depends on how Phonetap in specific has built his versus Firebat's Tempo Mage deck. Firebat's Tempo Mage deck, I do know runs Ronin. So it's a little bit later, which may become a factor against Phonetap.
Yeah, he has a bigger emphasis on Effigy because he has Water Elementals and Ronin. Very slow compared to some of the faster, quick decks that rely on the cheap spell synergy with Mechanical Yetis. So, here we go. Patron versus the Paladin. Let's try once again. Firebat to get reverse swept, or not reverse, sorry, just to get swept out, has to reverse sweep his opponent. He's going to start off with Patron, but imagine if he loses 3 games in a row with Patron.
Ooh, look at that early hand from Phonetap, too. We were talking about the consistency of Seeker Paladin, but that's a pretty gross opening hand.
That's literally as good as it gets, I think.
Well, Tyrion could be like a Shredder, I guess.
For turns 1 to 3, at least, though.
Yeah. Well, hey.
You monster.
I'm sorry.
I mean, Blessing of Kings might even be better sometimes, but Pilot Shredder is also very good because of how sticky it is against Warrior.
And Phonetap is going with the most aggressive opening possible, says, I don't care about Fiery War Axe, and he's going to get rewarded. This will push 2 more damage than the mini-bot, so now he also knows Firebat has no War Axe. He's going to start laying down the pressure.
Oh, boy.
Firebat does have a way to deal with the muster, assuming it gets played next turn. Even though you don't want to just be throwing away your Whirlwinds, it will pop a Divine Shield as well. So let the Knife Juggler at 1. And, oof, The shield block is great to get some cycle, but it's not very proactive.
Whoa.
Ooh. So
It is very tempting, but Muster for Battle is better on curve.
Yeah. Start pushing out that weapon damage early just in case you draw. I believe we've seen Phonetap at least play 1 Cog Hammer, maybe even 2 I've seen in some lists. So you want to push out the weapon pressure while you can. The additive damage from the Light's Justice is pretty nice, and then eventually you will just want to replace that weapon.
This is a super hostile board for Firebat this turn, and he even goes so far as Gnomish Inventor, so he's not going to Whirlwind just yet. Convinced he doesn't have to.
Yeah, and that's going to get a lot of even more damage coming to his face.
Oof. Yeah,
He might be confident in it, though, because he has Armor Smith, and he wants to use his Gnomish Inventor to be a body on the board. I think drawing the card is pretty important, but Firebat, he's going to really even want this 2-4 to start using his body to start combating against the minions.
Yeah, and Phonetap just has a bunch of options now. It kind of depends on what he wants to do here. Looking like he wants to play the Knife Juggler and shield his mini-bot down.
Yeah. Most aggressive option. This is the most power on the board, and he gets a lot of juggles, too.
Good jugglers.
These jugglers, man, they
Smart.
Yeah, I was going to say, they know where to go. Face is the place.
Well, I mean, I think the minions have to follow suit, right?
Yeah.
You just got to go.
Follow the leader.
I was thinking maybe if 2 juggles that hit the Gnomish Inventor.
Yeah,
maybe
no,
you
those
could've made
Knife
the
Jugglers,
justice.
they're leading the troops.
Look at how much damage he's doing on this turn as a Paladin, too.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing is, like,
Oh.
Firebat's going to try to stabilize a lot against this. Oh, he's actually going to trade off entirely. No longer weak to Whirlwind. 2 Whirlwinds would be a different story, but what can Firebat really do? He does pick up a 2nd Whirlwind effect.
Yeah, he does, and that will help keep a lot of the minions clear because he can tuck an Armor Smith behind that, too.
Yeah, for Firebat, though, if he just stabilizes and completely focuses on that, and then a turn 8 Tyrion Fordring hits the board, maybe that's, you know, enough to break the camel's back and send Phonetap to just a 3-0.
Depends, though. I really feel like this is a really good turning point for Firebat. It would have to be like Phonetap picks up Owl. I don't think he. I don't think he has.
That'd be insane.
I don't think he has it. It's rare for the Paladins to use Owl sometimes, but they could incorporate it as tech. That's where these players individually they evaluate the metagame and see if it's good or not to put it in.
I'm interested to see here. He was obviously favoring that Unstable Ghoul, but it's also interesting to see if maybe there's a slam that comes out to just get a Knife Juggler off the board. You guys brought up the Armor Smith. So he goes for that Whirlwind to soften up the Knife Jugglers. And this is a safer play, I feel like.
Yeah, I like tucking it behind it. Now you challenge the shielded mini-bots, and you're going to force your opponent to kill the Knife Jugglers in so that they're able to do stuff. Unless his opponent picked up some way to silence the 1-3 Unstable Ghoul.
Yeah, instead we see Phonetap draws a True Silver Champion. And he has True Silver Champion and Piloted Shredder available to him on this turn. Have to imagine he puts one of the Knife Jugglers into the Unstable Ghoul since it's already damaged, and he can't really save it. Interested to see if he goes with that Shredder, though, or the True Silver Champion, because he could put the Knife Juggler into the Unstable Ghoul, and then equip the True Silver Champion, and then get rid of the Armor Smith if he's afraid of it generating too much armor. Might just try to ignore it. But that Armor Smith will then be able to snipe off some of the shielded mini-bots.
Well, it's going to kill mini-bot either way.
Right.
So I assume that you want to push the damage. I think Pilot Shredder puts the most damage as well because you can get that 4 in every turn. So I anticipate him trading in, laying the Pilot Shredder, and then
going face.
Probably killing.
It looks like the True Silver play, though. Going to protect the shielded mini-bots.
Sure. It's an investment. He's like, surely he doesn't have another Whirlwind effect, right?
Yeah.
Well, seeing that first Whirlwind come out last turn from Firebat, like, that's not necessarily the turn you want to make as the patron because it lays out the board very plainly what your situation is. That may be something you want to do that's a little more reactive. He does get an Inner Rage, though.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent draw.
Right. And next turn, Phonetap can look at least for what he has right now, putting down Haunted Creeper and Paladin Shredder to keep the pressure on. Firebat gets a Death Bite. Great draw normally. I'm not necessarily sure he wants to see that just at the moment. He needs to not be taking as much damage.
It's okay, though, because ultimately this Paladin deck, as much as it likes to be aggressive onto the board, still at its core is Paladin. It doesn't kill you from the hand. So being at 10, even though it doesn't feel good, you're still in a position where you can get away with it. And also,
see a slam come out there, so
Yeah.
that's how much he values getting that shielded minibot off the board and trying to stabilize it. Because once he stabilizes, if the Paladin doesn't have something like a Divine Favor, the Paladin's just in top deck mode, and Firebat can pretty easily set himself up to turn this game around.
What do you think about playing the Haunted Creeper? I guess it's better to play it now than next turn.
We haven't seen a Thaurissan yet, so you know there's no universe where he just war songs and patrons you on this turn. I mean, you have to get it out sooner rather than later. And what was your other option? Were you going to Shredder and Hero Power? That
Maybe
also
just,
presents
maybe just
a...
Loatheb, but then, I don't know. I guess I'm always scared of giving opponents openings to come back.
Right. Firebat's forced into the position, which is a very unfortunate one, of Battle Raging for one. Does get the Frothing Berserker. Is there any card, Shocky, you think he's looking at specifically at the moment, or is it just Warsong?
Yeah, it's definitely just Warsong Commander. Tends to be what you really need to draw in these situations. He's going to be getting super low, especially since he couldn't fit the armor up in. And there is a world where Loatheb might just seal him out.
Ooh.
But, oh, man, that is so bad.
That is disaster.
We've said it before, Shredder giveth and Shredder taketh away.
The really rough thing, too, is that the Haunted Creeper spawns before the Death Rattle goes off for the sheep. I mean, there still is the fact that Firebat might just die.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. He's going to not leave out 1/1/1. And we'll have to see how Firebat goes about this. He's definitely going to
Execute.
have to deal with a Tyrion next turn, so if he uses that execute now...
He might have to, though, because
I think he feels like maybe he can stabilize from here on out, but the Tyrion is going to be so backbreaking.
Yeah, Tyrion on curve.
Are you guys ready to put your faith in the light?
Firebat isn't.
But I'm pretty sure
Your faith in
with
the
a
light.
redemption, too.
redemption on the following
Now, we've
turn
talked about that.
It's pretty nasty.
Obviously, you can't dual wield as Tyrion.
Right, but it's still a 6/1 Divine Shield.
Absolutely.
That's about the best you can ever get with redemption.
Well, maybe he
That's
can.
pretty good.
Maybe he can patron flood this.
Maybe.
And by patron flood, I mean create
You mean two.
There's Warsong Commander.
Yeah, but he can't bounce off, obviously, because
It's a 6/6.
it's only Tyrion.
No one has ever said that, sir. Tyrion Fordring is the greatest of heroes in Azeroth, and off stream, I'll have all kinds of things to tell you about him.
Want a Tyrion and chill?
Count me in. Count me in. I'm always down to put my faith in the light. So, we see here...
All right.
Frodan just off to the side.
Thank you for not inviting me to be part of that.
Frodan, you don't even have to ask. You're always invited.
Oh, okay. I
So,
appreciate that.
we see Frothing Berserker coming down.
Would you Whirlwind here, maybe?
That's what I was thinking. You
It
got to
would
get
take
that.
off the shield and it would buff up your frothing.
Maybe this is just a point where Firebat's putting it down, and it's like, look at this tasty thing you could slam your Tyrion
Yeah,
into.
exactly.
That's
That
not
is-
my face.
That is what it is.
Oh, and the
Wow.
the redemption.
The redemption is so big.
Well,
Both
crazy
these
stuff's
minions.
going to happen here with the Warsong Patron. Firebat's like, well, this is obviously what I'm doing.
It's time to go.
We're doing one thing and one thing only.
This is where my life is going. Going to Patron Town.
Yeah, Firebat's this is my life now.
And he's going to survive just barely, I think, with enough health, right? Because this should...
Will he?
Yeah, because the Frothing will be able to kill the Tyrion. Oh, it got the redemption. Oh, yeah, that's
Ooh.
right.
Okay.
He can't whirlwind.
Wait, he can just leave up Tyrion, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, you just leave up Tyrion and make a bunch of patrons. Okay. That's fine, actually, because like you said, Paladin, not a deck that does a lot of damage from hand. Obviously, Ashbringer is going to be a lot of damage, but Firebat can try and make a situation where he can kill him before Ashbringer gets there for him.
The only exception is if he gets a True Silver off the top.
Yeah, that would obviously spell doom for him. So he's going to make that play that I mentioned, just leave up Tyrion, because killing it doesn't really reduce the power on the board that much.
No, not at all. Phonetap looking for 3 damage to end the game.
Hammer Wrath. Hammer Wrath. Oh, that's a
Well, Avenge is pretty poor. But if you take your opponent to 3 here, arming up only puts them up to 5. Ashbringer would then just end the game. But then how worried are you Frothing Berserker ends the game?
I'm pretty dang worried, honestly.
So
do you hero
he's
power?
going face.
Would you
Do
hero
you
power?
equality ever here?
Equality, you can make a case for so the patrons don't copy.
I would
Yeah.
equality.
But
Here
I mean,
we go. Is this lethal? Because if it's not, that's game over.
He might have just the lethal because of so much damage being copied. Because the
Yeah, he needs that face with the frothing. So
right, but he has a whirlwind effect.
right, he can throw the patron in, but the avenge will stop that.
He can't actually whirlwind though because the frothing will kill
Yeah,
itself.
he has to go face first with the frothing, and he needs to end the game.
The avenge.
This turn. With the fireworks, I think he can get there. It's going to be 16 to the face now.
Plus 3 from the Fire War Axe. That's 19.
19,
plus
24, plus the patron, plus the Warsong 29.
Commander.
That's it.
He has it.
Firebat gets there and keeps his hopes alive.
That's insane. On the brink of elimination, Firebat
All he
brings
needs to do is get these attacks in the correct order, get them all face. Trading in the Warsong gets you the exact net damage.
Oh, could also rope. But he should be okay.
So, if equality had come out, though, wouldn't this have...
It wouldn't have worked because he couldn't have copied any of the patrons.
Ah, yeah. That's a fair point.
So a little bit of a blunder maybe from Phonetap.
Oh
But
my
Firebat's
goodness.
going to come back into this 2-1.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. The equality would have at least locked Firebat out of that possibility. And
Yeah.
that Warsong Commander draw was, I mean, just enough. He just needed one more point of damage. It could have been a lot of things. So crazy back and forth game coming down to, again, just a few damage points here and there.
Yeah, the reverse sweep starts here. So if Firebat wants to...
What do you hold equality for generally after that? Is it because you want to use it in combination with consecration? Because if Tyrion dies, too, you get a weapon.
Yeah, but then, I mean, if you're not killing your opponent, you're pretty much out of the game there.
Well, I mean, what's the reasons to hold equality there from your perspective?
I didn't really see many. I mean, maybe... Because if you draw consecration and you equality the prior turn, they're still all equality'd, right?
Right.
So I honestly think it was just a little bit of a blunder there from Phonetap.
Uh-oh. Well, that could end up costing him in the series. We'll have to evaluate it as time goes on because Firebat does have 2 other decks to defeat this Paladin, but it's still a long uphill climb considering that even if these decks are 50-50 at best, Phonetap's still very much favored in the series.
Yeah, you made a great point, Frodan, last game. Paladin, does have the ability to be extremely aggressive nowadays, but at the same time, it's still Paladin at the end of the day, so it's not Hunter. It doesn't have the 2 damage hero power. It doesn't have the life tap to get it more cards, just start flooding the board even harder. And that was kind of one of the things shown there is, Phonetap was pushing a lot of damage all game. It just ended up that Firebat was able to stabilize through playing as he did and ends up getting that win. So congrats to Firebat.
I mean, he never even truly stabilized. Like, Phonetap kept the pressure every single turn.
Yeah,
and then Firebat just reverse killed him because he didn't take care of the Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, I think Phonetap got a little greedy seeing the frothing at 1 and thinking, well, Whirlwinds can't, boost it up anymore. It's just going to be that set 16 damage, but that's still a lot.
Optimistic, to say the least. You're working with 12 health remaining or less. Your opponent able to get 1 over. Frustrating indeed, but get back to the grind. Firebat opening up with a couple of 2-drops here. Pretty good. Remember, his deck is very much around that effigy value, being able to play Water Elemental, Ronin, and a couple of other meaty minions.
Yeah, we see Phonetap has a pretty awkward opening hand. He's got that equality back in his hand, which is, not necessarily great right now.
Just taunting him. Remember me?
Why didn't you play me? I'm actually not sure if it would have saved him.
Right.
Because that would make, obviously I can't really do the math right now.
That would make Tyrion take less damage for him to get past.
So it would make only 1 patron need to run into it, and then it would also buff the frothing a little less. So it probably would have saved him, I want to say, because Firebat was only over by 1.
Right.
We'll have to see how he can maybe use it in this game because, like you guys were saying, it's not a pretty draw at this point in the game, and his hand not looking too good.
Yeah, these secrets. Repentance doesn't even do much.
Yeah, the Redemption. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it actually blocks counterspell.
Okay. Well, it blocked a pretty useful spell.
That is the most valuable Repentance.
I think that was the best Repentance possible in this matchup.
It's a top 10 Repentance NA, I would say.
Well, outside of landing on a pretty meaty mid-range minion.
Yeah, of course. Just had to throw it out right now.
Right.
Also gets to check the secret for him, which is nice.
But now he knows, well, the counterspell is gone. If I kill this, then it's most likely effigy.
Yeah, basically has to be effigy. I believe we've seen Firebat's list only as one of each of them. So now he knows Effigy's out. But for Firebat, how do you really abuse that Effigy, considering you can only play up to 3 drops on this turn?
Well, I think that's still okay, because the whole point of Effigy is just to give you resounding board control. And against a deck like Paladin that wants to just seize the early board, I think that's still good enough.
What to do?
Yeah, Paladin Shredder going to come online next turn, and that would obviously be a great Effigy because you know, you're getting a lot of value out of that. But he's going to go ahead and play down the Sorcerer's Apprentice over the Mana Worm.
Oh, that's how you get Effigy value.
Yeah,
you force him to attack the Ascension.
Yeah. Could work out really well for him.
It will also be a 4 mana minion that comes out. Some people might wonder, well, isn't it 1 mana cost, so it's a 1 mana minion? It goes by the value of the minion itself.
Yeah, honestly, one of the reasons it's so good is the synergy with Unstable Portal.
I would just like to take a moment to point out that I think 3 out of the 4 draws Phonetap's had in the last few turns have been Paladin Secrets.
Ooh, he did ping off, so it looks like he's going to trade.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get rid of that Avenge while he can in an efficient manner.
That's okay, too, because he only has 1 spell in, and he should still be able to make a big tempo play with Mana Worm next turn.
I like this team of Senjin Shieldmaster, Mana Worm. Senjin's like, do what you have to. I'm just going to hold the line right now. Sledge Belcher comes down in second Mana Worm. This could actually ensure that the Mana Worms get a lot of value because Senjin's just there to tank it.
Yeah, it does slightly weaken the Mana Worm so that if you get picked up by Consecration, but still in the grand scheme of things, Firebat's way ahead in tempo.
Right,
and the only thing is if Phonetap was able to draw Mysterious Challenger in that position.
Yeah, it would have been pretty huge.
We've talked about the world of inconsistent Paladin secret draws, and this is kind of one of those games that shows you that sometimes you don't drop particularly well because you start drawing your own secrets, which is not what you want to do. You want Mysterious Challenger to do that for you and kind of flood on turn 6 with just a whole bunch of value, but yeah, Fireball and Frostbolt in Firebat's hand, along with the Shredder. This could get ugly for Phonetap really quickly.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite time to just hit all face. And it is important for Firebat to attack with the Mana Worm that won't die to Noble Sacrifice first.
Right.
But I expect him to just throw down the Shredder this turn, really just keep pressuring. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him just keep going face, but he's just going to continue to clear.
Yeah, it doesn't want Blessing of Kings to ever be a real thing. Even though Effigy does exist, and you don't mind getting the Senjin killed, right now your board tempo is so strong with 2 Mana Worms and 2 spells in the hand.
Yeah, and right now...
How much damage is this even?
It's 22? 24. Because of the double Mana Worm buffs. So he's got 24. Wouldn't be surprised to see him just go all face this turn. I mean, it looks obvious that you can Fireball off that Doctor Boom, but what threat is it really?
No, because you also have Effigy, so most likely a minion will stick, and then you have...
And the Shredder, too.
Right.
Like,
if you can go for, like, Burn, so that way you can just set up that you kill him the following turn, that's also good.
you could just Frostbolt the Doctor Boom to get yourself more damage. And
I like that a
freeze
lot.
it in place right now. Unstable Portal, he just keeps picking up damage because these spells are just acting as 2 damage.
Yeah, why not?
My
yeah,
God.
why not? Let's do it. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Edwin Van Cleef time.
What is that, a 8/8?
Is that the best Unstable Portal possible?
Rogue made an appearance at the tournament.
And he puts him to exactly 7, so pretty much literally no matter what Phonetap does.
Oh, Quality Consecration? No.
That wouldn't even do it. He's at 7.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, so Phonetap.
It just wasn't his game.
Yeah, no.
Those
not at
Mana
all.
Worms doing 5 damage each.
Even a Doomsayer.
Yeah, even
matter.
Doomsayer.
Ooh. Edwin Van Cleef, though, it's been a while since we've seen him in a tournament. It's kind of nice to see him get back into the competitive landscape.
Hey, the Rogue class.
That's what I said. Rogue showed up.
But
Make it a cameo.
Once again, it didn't do anything.
Hey. Rogue's doing stuff.
Savage.
Rogue's doing stuff. That 8/8 is very intimidating.
I mean,
It
the
literally
8
is actually
Rogue players are really mad at you right now.
Hey.
Wow.
Hey.
That follow-up for Van Cleef was nothing more than a victory cigar. Just like, yep. Pack it up, boys. This one's going home. Effigy.
What's it get?
Another rogue card. Let's do it.
We get to see it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey. The
Hey.
moment. Oh. Hey, he's not even going to live. Poor Edwin Van Cleef.
Rip.
Hey, Boonguard
Yeah.
Lieutenant.
But he's gonna play.
Boonguard.
He's gonna play his cog hammer here to try to be defensive.
Right.
Yeah. Still just dead to board here.
Yep.
So.
A valiant effort, but Firebat off to too good of a start. And you know what? I kind of want to see Ronan still do things, but looks like he's going to have to sit this one out.
I was in the same boat when Silentstorm was running Confessor Paletris. I kept telling Chucky, I was like, come on, just play the Paletris. He's like, or you could just win the game.
Play cool TGT legendaries.
Do it.
2-2, just like that. It was one turn away from Phonetap to win 3-0 and move on, but Firebat's equalized it.
Yeah, I got a little help from the Brotherhood. You know.
Yeah, I guess it absorbed the boom bot.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Oh,
That's
sick.
a lot.
Yeah. Not everything can just take on the boot bot and survive, so.
Yeah,
a
not
very
Azure
brave
Drake.
man. Certainly not an Azure Drake.
Phonetap did make sure to use Equality that game. So Equality got used, which allowed him to try to clear the board and set himself up for a situation where he wouldn't just die.
Maybe now. It won't show up next game when he doesn't need it. And
Yeah, Phonetap had a pretty egregious set of draws that game.
That's what happens with the mid-range Paladin Secrets deck. That's one of its drawbacks because you have a lot of things that hypothetically curve correctly, but then you also have the other half which doesn't, and it happens more regularly than I'd like it to happen, right? Because you have a bunch of secrets in the deck.
yeah, it's really a deck that tries to get the best of both worlds. I mean, you're trying to jam that secret shell into a mid-range deck. You're running, a few of the secrets, the mysterious challengers, but also trying to get that mid-range shell. And when you get the combination of draws where it's like mid-rangey stuff, but just secrets, you're like, ugh.
Yeah. Sometimes it's neither. You're like, I'm not really controlling the board or actually being able to be defensive.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if Mysterious Challenger makes an appearance because it hasn't in the past 2 games.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a deck that's oriented around it.
Yeah, so we come to this game 5 now. The winner of this game right now.
There it is again.
It's the exact same opener redemption with the noble
keeps
sacrifice.
happening.
Anyway, the winner of this game will advance to the next series where they will have the chance to play for
Trump.
one of the 2 remaining spots. Yeah, play Trump. So you got to be thinking at home he's rooting for Phonetap because we said earlier he's got the Flare in his Hunter deck. So
Yeah, he's got the counter to the deck that can't win anyway so far.
Oh, no.
This deck has won a few games in the previous series, but yeah, this time around it's not faring well.
Yep.
We see it draws more secrets. Okay, Mustard or Battle.
There you
you
go.
go. We're on the board.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
excellent.
unfortunately, Redemption doesn't really synergize too well with that. He decided, didn't want to go for the Noble Sacrifice, which just dies to the hero power. It might look like competitive spirit,
Right. Maybe
the way he played it, but
He
honestly,
also just drew Mustard, though.
honestly, I think Phonetap didn't have competitive spirit in his deck.
Yeah, we were remarking on that because it was actually the slower variant
Yeah.
of Seeker Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, it's as we've seen in the past matchups, it's more focused on playing more big stuff in the mid game, so it doesn't really flood the board, which makes competitive spirit one of the weaker secrets.
Interested to see if Firebat believes it's competitive spirit, he might hero power into it. But as you said, I think it's been shown already that he doesn't have competitive spirit.
Yeah.
So if Firebat's done his homework, he can just realize that it's redemption.
Yeah, he might pass to not playing a Noble Sacrifice, but if that hits your Shredder, you're still a little unhappy. So he just goes face. Kind of going to find out it's either Avenge or Redemption now.
So Phonetap's middle of the game cards are looking better, though. He does have a Lothar for turn 5. He has Boom on 7. As you guys pointed out, Mysterious Challenger needs to go ahead and make his way into this game for Phonetap to really be able to turn this. Although, the rest of Firebat's hand is actually not super stellar.
Yeah, turn 5 is still pretty far away, and the big problem ultimately is that Phonetap will be playing secrets next turn, which means Firebat will be developing minions. So can Lothar make an impact by the time that he gets played? Maybe not, because Firebat might even just clear the board by then, because he does have access to cards like Swipe, as well as a bunch of other small things like Hero Powers and Wrath, etc.
You maybe even Coghammer here just to get rid of the Aspirant.
I think so, because you are kind of the aggressor in this matchup. Druid's usually on the defense. You just want to make things awkward for him, generally.
Even though his own hand is pretty awkward.
Yeah, the Divine Shield 1/1 is just hard for Druid to really deal with in an efficient manner. They have to waste a bunch of mana just getting through it.
Yeah, we might even see a Wrath come out to cycle and just get one of these 1/1s off the board. As we know, the secret is redemption, so the 1/1 will come back, but without taunt.
Yeah. That's interesting to note. Firebat doesn't know that yet. He might think it's Avenge, and he might not attack into it.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, and he's actually not going to, so...
Respecting the Avenge.
It's going to not, work out as well as it would for Firebat if he just decided to just take the risk.
Because I think he's going to swipe this turn then, probably, so they could play around all those events.
Yeah.
And now he knows, like, okay, probably no sacrifice.
Phonetap not waiting for the mysterious challenger hat, kind of building his own. Picked it up at IKEA, found the directions, and he's putting together his own hat now.
Well, it's interesting because he would have to proc the Avenge if there were one. Because when you attack in, the Noble Sacrifice pops, the Redemption already hit the 1/1.
Right.
So no matter what, you have to proc the Avenge. He's actually doing it in the correct order. This, if there were an Avenge, it would buff a minion, and then he could swipe that one.
Yeah.
So really well sequenced from Firebat. He's going to get a full board clear and really just get rid of all these secrets besides, obviously, that Repentance.
Repentance could be pretty big, though, on the next turn.
He's pushing a lot of face damage as well.
He's going to know, too, exactly what type of secret this is. It's Repentance,
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
Repentance.
You got to feel like, in this point, Sludge Belcher becomes the play over Lothab, just because of all that damage he's pushing in.
Yeah,
because
Sludge Belcher contests this really well.
The natural enemy of the piloted Shredder is the Sludge Belcher. Ooh!
Harrison Jones.
Yeah.
Oh, Harrison Jones shuts down the weapon, gets you a draw, and it's not your Ancient of Lore that gets hit.
Yeah, he knows that Repentance is down, and so Ancient Lore really has no merit over a Harrison Jones here.
He gets also the Force of Nature. Firebat is almost on the verge of making the comeback here, because Paladin is still struggling to be aggressive.
Has very few defensive cards. I mean, we see one of the few on the field. It's Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, this turn works out so perfectly for Firebat. Able to play the Harrison, proc the Repentance, and he still has enough to hero power to finish off the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, I think I would hero power here because there's a real world where next turn you're going Wrath, swipe hero power. That's very realistic play. He's going to note that, think, okay, I want the Wrath over a random card in my deck. I'm fine with taking 3.
And this is one of those situations where in replacing the Muster for Battle Lights Hope with the Cog Hammer, yeah, Phonetap actually doesn't have a convenient well. Never mind.
Well, he's got the Slime.
True, but if he doesn't want to necessarily trade that out.
I think he does.
He's going to want to because it's just too much damage otherwise.
So you think you have to play Lothar this turn
just a Slime,
as opposed to... That's rude.
I think you play whatever you feel like sets up Dr. Boom the best.
Yeah, I think you play Lothab, and I mean, kind of look at how these turns are going to go. The Harrison's going to die. The Lance Carrier is going to hit Phonetap down to 15. Boom comes down. Lothab trades off with the Ancient Lore, and then he combos you. Yeah, like, looking at how the game's going to go, it looks like Phonetap's going to lose.
Well, he might have to also just play the Choose Silvers because he has to play around that possibility. Because the thing about Dr. Boom is it's great on turn 7, but you also give up what you impact on the board, so you need to set up something preemptively.
That's the type of thing Phonetap needs to be thinking about right now. Do I really want to Lothab now? And he's going to go for it. Unfortunately, I don't think that might work out the best.
Right, because the Ancient Allure comes down here, and that draws 2 more cards for Firebat, and he sneaks his 15th point of damage.
I think he needs to pick up a Taunt.
But Taunt for 7 mana or less, it's the second Sludge Belcher?
He could stay alive by not playing Boom and just True Silver championing it off, but then you're basically delaying the inevitable.
Okay, 1 more draw for Phonetap.
Oh, if he could fit that in.
Yeah, I mean, he can.
He could, but again, you have to forego this Dr. Boom, so that's going to be what has to happen for him here.
He might have to play with, like, if you have the combo, good for you.
Yeah.
But it's also elimination
so many cards.
Yeah, so many cards. He's holding 7 cards.
But if you play around combo, and then your opponent just does, like, Azure Drake Shredder, go.
Then you're, like,
Do you
really
still
far
lose?
behind.
Yeah.
You're still so far behind. You might have to play with no respect for it. But he still can. If he plays True Silver Champion, kills the 1-2, develops the Knife Juggler instead, it's a weaker play, but he's still alive.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters for Phonetap, to stay alive.
Yeah, but then Azure Drake, like, swipe face, you can keep her. Uh-oh. That's it!
Firebat completes the reverse sweep and stays alive, continuing his road to BlizzCon. The world champion takes down Phonetap.
Yeah, there's no iffy spots, so he went immediately to it.
That's the Druid combo, man.
Where have I seen this before?
Wow.
This is how he won the World Championship.
Yeah. That's it. Firebat takes the series 3-2, completes the reverse sweep. Really awesome comeback. You didn't want to see Firebat just get swept, and not only does he not get swept, he counter sweeps.
You know, a pretty crushing loss for Phonetap. Both these guys were in the top 8 for points. I believe Phonetap even dominated #1 for a couple of months there before Zalay and Amaz ultimately were able to uproot him from that position. And, you know, I think Firebat also has a lot of pride here. You know, he was in the top 8 for sure, but he also wanted to defend his title as the world champion. It would mean a lot for him to be able to go back to the regionals. the year after he won BlizzCon to show some consistency as well. So a sigh of relief for a lot of Archon and Firebat fans, and a little bit of a very disappointing to see that Phonetap dropped that hero. I definitely figured he was one of the players that would go to regionals. If I had to pick one of the top 8, he'd be one of the players that I would not be surprised to see go through.
Yeah, still a very good 2015 for Phonetap. Emerged on the scene, won ESL Legendary Series Season 2, kind of put a name for himself out there, joined Luminosity Gaming, so definitely someone to keep an eye on for the future. And for Firebat, it's the opportunity to repeat. He's still on that chance to where he could win the Americas Championship and then punch a ticket all the way to BlizzCon.
What's crazy is that for elimination, it's Firebat versus Trump. One of them is going to regionals. One of them, their road to BlizzCon ends there. And that's going to be happening, I believe, as our last match of the day for now. We're going to go to the match before that, which is, I believe, Neas up against Bloody Face. So, guys, hang in your seats. We have 2 more matches. We're going to find out who is going to get those last 2 spots in the North American regionals. We'll be right back.